Welcome to another edition of Crime News with Mark Solomon. It is Thursday, August 12, 2021, and today we're going to be talking about the Barry Morphew case again. The preliminary hearing has been underway. We're going to talk about some interesting facts that we now know and go from there. Stay tuned. But before we get to that, don't forget to click like and subscribe with a little bell next to it to be notified of future videos. If you'd like this video and want to see more, click that bell. Okay, let's get right into it. I had a comment from a viewer saying, can you give us an update on the first 2 days of the preliminary hearing? Answer is yes, we can. Let's get to that. So this is a news article in Fox 21 News from the 9th. That was 3 days ago after the first day of the preliminary hearing, and some really interesting facts came out there. Basically, Suzanne Morphew was reported missing on May 10, 2020, never been found, and he is accused of murder. And this is a good list of the charges he is facing. We went over that in last week's video, which is murder in the first degree, tampering with a deceased human body, tampering with physical evidence. And I got to stop right there just for a second. One of the things that I meant to talk about in my last video, I just ran out of time. It was a really long video. The fact is he's being charged with murder for the death of his wife, Suzanne, but Barry Morphew is also being charged with tampering with the deceased human body, and the allegation there is that he not only murdered her but then disposed of her body. So in other words, you've got this case where he's charged with murder because they can't find her, and also tampering with the deceased human body, also ostensibly because they can't find her. I thought that was kind of interesting. But then also possession of a dangerous weapon, must have been a rifle that they found, attempt to influence a public servant for the misrepresentation of material facts in the investigation of her disappearance, forgery of public records, and a mail-in ballot offense. The preliminary hearing is there to protect the defendants from unsupported criminal charges, decide whether probable cause exists. We talk about that. Judge Murphy taking charge of his courtroom. And then they talked initially with Commander Alex Walker of the Chaffee County Sheriff's Office. And he went into the facts of his case, and that Suzanne left her home for a weekend bike ride, and on Monday, body camera video by the Chaffee County deputies when Suzanne's bicycle was discovered. Interestingly enough, and I know I read it somewhere, but her bicycle helmet was found miles, untouched, unscathed bicycle helmet was found miles from where she was riding. You know, the FBI was involved. We're going to get to that. There was a long search for her body, was never found, and new evidence, and this is the more startling evidence that came out Monday, a few days ago, she was having an extramarital affair. This was with somebody named Jeff Leibler, who she went to high school with. He does not live in Colorado, but she went on several business trips, and on these business trips is when the affair was occurring. He claimed his phone had been destroyed shortly after Suzanne went missing and deleted secret accounts on WhatsApp, but he didn't want Suzanne's legacy tarnished by their affair, is what he was saying. But that relationship was revealed by the discovery of the spy pen, which she had asked her friend to help her obtain, and it looks like a black pen that can be plugged in and downloaded the audio, and it activates when things are heard. So it was discovered in the search of Suzanne's closets. Investigators said several audio files have been deleted from the pen. 2 of those files were successfully recovered. Both of them involved her and Leibler. And the FBI agent Harris testified on Monday that he believed that she had deleted those audio files herself. The agent also said that Morphew said he didn't have any knowledge of the wife's affair, which interesting because the Morphew's defense team, it plans to play audio of Leibler from an interview with investigators. And they said they never found Suzanne's phone or the charger she kept by her bedside. Instead, they used what was found on iCloud. Now, I talked about this before, but, whenever you have a phone and you try to delete things from the phone, things can be recovered from the phone. And if your phone backs up to the cloud, that's something that can also be found because they don't even need to get your phone. All they need to do is get the backups from iCloud. And the iCloud backups are pretty extensive as far as the information that they keep. Nevertheless, the Two took a break in their relationship, but was then speaking again around Christmas time of 2019. Liebler told special investigators that Suzanne had told him that Barry had seen some of their messages and that they needed to switch back to using communication apps. So one of the things, again, I wanted to talk about the revelation that Suzanne was having an affair, an extramarital affair, and that Barry Morphew knew about it is pretty incriminating. Because remember, when you've got a person in a relationship who is cheating on that relationship, gives the other person a pretty good motive to be angry, at the very least. Angry, disappointed, hurt. And what do angry, disappointed, and hurt people do when they are emotional? And the answer is potentially things that get them charged with murder and the destruction of a body. The defense attorney spoke from the report. She was worried. What if Barry looks up his records? He had no idea that they had talked to each other. According to the testimony, the two spoke 26 times between January 4 and January 11 of 2019. Suzanne met up with Liebler in February of 2019 in New Orleans, and then later in Indiana, and then again in Michigan and Dallas, and again in Florida. He was planning a trip to Colorado in March of 2020 when the pandemic hit. The two were planning a future marriage, calling each other soulmates. And this is just, it's sad, because if they really were in a budding relationship and her relationship with Barry's was dying, well, they never got that chance. The next fact to come out that's just absolutely amazing is that Suzanne Morphew had told Barry that she was done with the marriage. Barry Morphew said he was shooting squirrels in his backyard the day before his wife disappeared, according to an FBI agent. This is an article in 9 News from Colorado, dated August 10, the next day. This is from testimony from FBI agent Ken Harris on the second day of the preliminary hearing. A now retired FBI agent, John Krusing, testified that the day before Suzanne went missing, she was in her backyard sunbathing and sending pictures online to Jeff Liebler. That cell phone data indicated that when he came home, he began moving in a pattern around the house. Again, this is using cell phone triangulation data with cell towers and sometimes using the GPS and the phone itself. Grusing said Morphew would later explain he was shooting chipmunks on his property. That doesn't jibe with the evidence that they found. But soon after, Liebler sent Suzanne several messages online that she did not return, which indicates that might be when she was incapacitated. On the witness stand, Grusing testified about 12 hours later the data captured by the electronics in his truck showed the truck's doors opening and closing. That Barry went to Broomfield a few hours later on a business trip, but then he said when he was in Broomfield, he made 5 trips to a dumpster where video showed him throwing away numerous bags. And then he has never been able to explain what was in some of those bags. Pretty damning testimony. Walker testified that Suzanne suspected Barry was having an affair, but so far they have not found any evidence of that. Investigators said that they learned of Suzanne's affair a few months before her disappearance, and they found audio recordings of Suzanne talking on that spy pen. And here's another part that I think is interesting. This is again in the "help me, my wife is missing" phase, according to Walker. Immediately after Suzanne's disappearance, Barry told investigators that he wanted to help out in any way he could, that he said that she has been his angel ever since he was 17. They loved each other to death, that they had a very good relationship, but he said that Suzanne texted a friend that she and Barry hadn't had a perfect night in a year and a half. Harris added that Suzanne texted that same friend that Barry isn't stable and that she wanted to get out of the marriage, and she would not feel safe being alone with Barry, and she worried about the effect her marriage was having on her health. This article talks a little bit about the search warrants, including that there's been over 100, including the one in the Morphew house, and law enforcement agencies have gotten more than 1,400 tips. And the preliminary hearing is set to resume on the 23rd. Barry Morphew is currently being held without bond. Next article I wanted to talk about was this just amazing Tranquilizer dart cap. When we talk, and this is an article dated August 10th as well, after the second day. When we talk about damning evidence that gets found in the defendant's house, well, this is pretty gosh darn incriminatory is what we say here. The former FBI agent revealed that they found a tranquilizer dart cap in the family's home and her disappearance and so forth. That's just nutty. The next article and last article I wanted to go over a little bit is that she was having an affair for 2 years. This is an article, again, dated for the Monday, but when you put this all together, and again, all the articles are going to be in the description below, all the links to those. So just to recap, the facts that have come out: Suzanne was having an affair for about 2 years. She was going all over the country on these business trips and meeting Liebler and texting her friend that she didn't feel like her husband was stable. You know, are those texts going to come out in evidence, or are they hearsay? I would argue that they're hearsay and they're never going to come into evidence, but they definitely support probable cause. When it comes to the tranquilizer dart cap found in the dryer vent, I can't imagine how that doesn't make Mr. Morphew look guilty as sin. But this is only a preliminary hearing, and the last part of it is, did Mr. Morphew know that she was having the affair? Did he know that she was done with the marriage? And I think that's the one piece of the puzzle that I have not seen in any of the articles that I've seen, which is, she may have been done with the marriage. She may have been having an affair. So there's a lot of information that I think is a little bit fuzzy as to why. But if they can connect those dots, that Mr. Morphew knew about Mrs. Morphew's affair, that she was leaving him in the marriage, that she and Liebler were planning to be married, whether he was having an affair or not, also relevant, because if he wanted to get out of his own marriage without divorcing and giving her half of the property of the marriage, then that's something else that could come out to be another motive. But if he knew she was having an affair too, that somewhat makes that less strong. But again, it's a complicated thing that, in my opinion, if they were both having an affair, if she was the only one having the affair, if he knew she was having an affair, that certainly gives a motive to do her harm. That's all I've got for today. After 2 days of preliminary hearing set to resume August 23rd. We'll be back for that. And until then, if you have any thoughts, feelings, or comments of anything that went on in this video, or anything I missed, anything I got wrong, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And until then, thank you for watching.